So we are talking about COVID, Corona,
The Rona.
what effect it has had on venture capital investing for 2020 so far. So since March 15th, and I kind of look at March 15th as being the pivotal day, how many investments have you done, if any?
Good question. We have done 2 investments. We did a follow-on investment in Omaze.
Okay.
Was one of our current portfolio companies.
And Omaze is the company that does social funding. Like you donate, it's like a lottery.
That's
Or
right.
A lottery for a cause. Okay.
Kind of a lottery. It's like a raffle.
Okay.
Raffle for a cause, right?
Okay.
Win one-of-a-kind experiences, right?
Okay. What else was there? That was a follow-on.
Yep, that was a follow-on. And then we invested. I actually can't disclose the company because it's not public now yet.
Yeah.
But the company, what they do is they basically help companies sell online.
Where are they based?
Here in Utah.
Is this your first Utah deal?
It is not my first Utah deal.
That's the joke that none of the VCs have done very many.
And then we also approved another deal we haven't done yet, but really excited about it. They do last mile delivery.
Okay.
And so if you think about packages today, we're all getting more and more packages. They help kind of manage
Is this route?
massive amount of flow.
So you've done 2 new investments and 1 follow-on.
Mm-hmm.
Any coming up?
Oh, we have so many in the pipeline, but we haven't approved anymore.
Okay.
We're looking at a lot. We are very active. I would say we are more active today than we were pre.
Why is that? Are deals better?
Look,
10 cents for the dollar?
I think there's a few things at play. One, you have a lot of companies that need to raise money, right? And we've looked at a bunch of those deals. I think the other thing is that in this industry, like deal flow kind of ebbs and flows. Sometimes, there's not a lot going on, and other times you're working on a ton of stuff and you don't know exactly why that is the case because it's so dependent on your relationships and networks and so forth. And I think in our case, it's a little bit of combo of the two.
Okay.
But I don't think it's necessarily COVID, driven.
Okay.
Put it that way.
Got it. Point number 2. So right now, one of the things that I'm seeing is that it's either kind of like a feast or famine, right? In my mind.
Yep.
You're either sucking air, you might go bankrupt, or like you might just crush it. Like, e-learning companies seem to be cranking it. As an investor, how do you deal with these opposites?
Look, here's the thing, like from my perspective, one, I think the public markets are kind of nuts because they're, they basically have wiped out all of the losses at this point, fully recovered. And yet there's been an enormous amount of capital stock that's just been kind of destroyed at this point.
Okay.
So I think, look, markets, in my opinion, personally, are overvalued. But the flip side of
Thanks
that.
to Acorn and what else?
Robinhood
and Wealthfront.
Wealthfront. Yeah, I mean, maybe, but probably, there's still not enough volume there to drive it.
Like if you would have invested in Square earlier this year.
You had doubled your money.
Yeah,
if you had
crazy.
invested in Fastly, which was one of our portfolio companies, you would have gone from like 20, their low of like 15 a share to like a little over 100 a share.
So what industries are going to be hurt the most from your perspective?
I think any industry that requires kind of face-to-face human interaction is going to be really hurt.
Which one is doing the best? Like if you picked one industry. So you're looking
Right,
at
so
like
that Zoom-
virtual communication as a particular niche. Are you looking at like online healthcare? Are you looking at like telemedicine?
So we're an investor in eVisit, which is a telemedicine company, and they have been doing incredibly well in the current environment. And look, I think businesses but that's a communication play, right?
Okay.
At the end of the day.
So you're looking at communication plays particularly right now.
Yeah, we think that there's something really interesting around communication.
Okay. Which industries will bounce back the fastest outside of like the ones that have been hit?
Well, personally, we're an investor in Toast, which does restaurant POS.
Okay.
And I'm very hopeful that restaurants will bounce back quick. And the reason for that is twofold. One, restaurants are very fragile in nature, but they're also very easy to start up. And so I think
you and I could start a pizza business tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Salt Lake deep dish pizzas.
Salt Lake deep dish pizza.
There's got to be a better play on words.
Probably. I'm sure there is one. I can't
leave it in the comments. How long will restaurants take to come back pre-corona level? Right.
To pre-corona levels, I think that'll actually take a while.
What's a while? 2 years? 3 years?
Yeah, probably 2 or 3 years.
Okay. How has your investment criteria changed since March 15th? So as you're watching this unfold, what's the evolution of your thought process of like, were you always like, hey, telecommunications it, or did you like step on a few different
I think
options?
our investment criteria hasn't changed much in terms of our thesis of what's interesting. Only to the extent, like I said, that, companies that really benefit from customers that are digitally native, I think will outperform. But I think when we look at deals right now, I'm looking for companies that are performing well in the current environment, which really like plays to that thesis. Like, yes, like, we're like the Zooms of the world or the Fastleys, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for those types of companies, but I'm also looking at those companies to provide some sort of discount on valuation.
Okay, so let's talk about growth rate for businesses. So prior to March 15th, what type of growth rate or signals were you looking at? Like if I said, hey, Peter, here's a deal, you would want to see what type of growth rate from a generic standpoint?
Depends on the stage of the company, but like 100% year over year.
Year over year. And so per month, that's like 7% per month?
Yeah, something like that.
And now in the next, what numbers are you looking at?
Same.
So it hasn't changed.
No, I mean, it depends on the business, right? So there are some businesses where I think like they'll recover okay once things, stabilize and reopen. And so on those, like maybe they don't have to grow quite 100% year over year, but I need to be able to believe that they can get back to strong growth.
Okay. Do you think VCs look at this as a temporary slip, or do you think they're still looking at Corona's impact as something that's going to affect their decisions, on like a 3-year basis? I mean, I think definitely like the world has changed, but is this something like, hey, I don't know what, we're going to wait before we make investments as a whole, or do you think it's...
Look, I think some shops are, but I think if you take that viewpoint, you're kind of missing out because the data actually shows that if you are active right when a recession hits, that's when you can get into some of the best deals and best valuations. And if you wait, you kind of miss out on that window, right? It's the same thing with public market investing, right? Like if you bought the dip, you made an insane amount of money. If you missed the dip, you didn't, right?
Okay.
That said, I think, look, to your point, the world has changed. So, I would bet if you talk to most VCs are saying, okay, we paused, reassessed, and now it's becoming clear that like there's not going to be a quick solution to any of this. And so we need to basically shift and adjust our investment strategies so that this works.
All right, last question. Let's talk about regulators.
Okay.
So what industries have governments been blocking that would now be available? Like maybe
telemedicine is a perfect example of
Okay.
that. Like they've like opened the floodgates of what like they'll allow for telemedicine. Like FaceTime is now appropriate.
FaceTime is HIPAA compliant.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Which is crazy.
But this is a short term or a long term?
Using FaceTime for your doctor visit, probably not a long-term solution.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your advice, Peter, and stay tuned as we talk about different business ideas and ideas that you can look at in a current and post-corona world. So thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you subscribe. We're on YouTube, we're on iTunes, we're on Spotify. Find us, we're there. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.